The way we lead impacts the way people live. This world needs truly human leadership.
There's an old expression, you need to get the right people on the bus. I think you need to build a safe bus, which is your business model. And then you need drivers who know where they're going and how to get there. And then anybody that gets on the bus is going to be fine. So again, the importance to all of you is the foundation of caring is to make sure that the people are safe in your care.
I'm Brent Stewart, your host. Thanks for listening. This podcast is an outreach of Barry-Wehmiller. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter at Barry-Wehmiller. And find our podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. In lieu of in-person speaking events over the past couple of years, our CEO Bob Chapman has been presenting our message of truly human leadership around the world virtually. And recently he's returned to in-person events, appearing alongside such speakers as basketball legend Magic Johnson at the SafetyCulture Made Extraordinary Summit in Las Vegas and the Shine Summit at Harvard University. But on this podcast, we want to share with you his most recent virtual event, addressing the second edition of the Conscious Capitalism Brazilian Forum. Having the opportunity to share our message at global events such as this shows that it is a universal truth that everybody wants to know that who they are and what they do matters. Now, here's Bob Chapman.
Appreciate the opportunity to come before you today to address a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. And the subject is the awakening of conscious leadership, which I believe will address what we call the poverty of dignity that exists around the world. And I want to begin because many people ask me, what led you to this conscious leadership, this truly human leadership? What happened? And so you understand that I got an accounting degree from Indiana University, an MBA, went to work for Price Waterhouse. And then after a couple of years, joined our historic family company in about 1969. So my background was very traditional business, and I was taught very traditional tools. And I'm going to take you on this journey in a way I think which will help you understand how we got to the point now of this truly human leadership. So the journey really began in 1997. We started to acquire companies. I acquired a company in South Carolina, about a $55 million company. And again, I had very traditional skill sets, attitude of a businessman. I was doing well as a business. And I went down to South Carolina to be in this company with about 300 people, about 55 million in sales in South Carolina. I came in to get a cup of coffee in the lunchroom. People didn't know me. I didn't know them. So I just observed behavior. What I'm going to tell you, though, is things I'd learned by thinking back what happened, because this is the beginning of my journey. In March of 1997, again, when I went down there, in America, we have a tremendous focus on college basketball competition for the championship. It's called March Madness. And I wasn't into that, but I certainly was aware of it. So I'm standing there having a cup of coffee, and some people around the office who were having a cup of coffee also, we're all talking about what teams won last night, who was going to be in the Final Four, and they're having fun. And as it got to be the opening time for the office, which is 8:00, you could just see the fun go out of their body. And in hindsight, what I said to myself is, why can't business be fun? Why do we call it work? And so, again, not even knowing I was thinking this, I walked down to have my meeting with the customer service team that sold spare parts for our machines. It's about a $21 million product line out of the 55 million. And I had no agenda. I just wanted to meet with them because it was an important product line, a way to show our commitment to our customers through quality service. So I sat down with a room of about 10 people in it, customer service representatives. They'd answer the phone, take orders, and deal with our customers. And without even an ounce of pre-thought, without any experience, I said, we're going to play a game. whoever sells the most parts each week wins. And if the team makes a team goal, the team wins $100. So $100 if you win as an individual, and $100 if the team wins as an individual. These 8 to 10 people said, Mr. Chapman, that won't work. And they had 21 reasons why this idea that popped out of me wouldn't work. And I had 21 reasons why it would. I never thought about it, never heard about it, never. It just came out of me having watched people play March Madness. And over the course of the next 13 weeks, it was amazing what happened. Our orders went up by 20%, which was very significant. But joy in our team went up 1,000%. Because when people started having fun and competing as individuals, but also as a team, we saw joy and value creation that was amazing. And we started trying to take these ideas that we just saw there and create, if you will, games, motivation in ways that created value and had fun. So why can't business be fun was my first transformation. A few years later, I was at church in St. Louis. The rector of our church was my pastor. He gave exceptional sermons, inspirational sermons. And one week I got up from the service and I looked at my wife, Cynthia, and I said, Cynthia, Ed has only got us for 1 hour a week. We have people for 40 hours a week. We are 40 times more powerful than our church to impact people's lives. And as I walked out of that church that day, I could show you the spot on the walkway where I've had this thought. I said, oh my goodness, business could be the most powerful force for good in the world if we simply cared about the people we had the privilege of leading. The third and transformation, which brought us to truly human leadership, was a wedding, probably within a year after that. And I was sitting there watching my friend walk his daughter down the aisle, and everybody was so amazed how lovely she looked, how proud he was as they walked down the aisle. As they got up to the altar, my friend took the arm of his daughter and said, her mother and I give her to be wed to this young man. And he sat down next to his wife, very traditional. And again, my mind went to a different place. And all of a sudden I said, having walked my 2 daughters down that aisle, I said, that's not what that father wanted to say. That's what he was told to say. What that father wanted to say is, look at young man, her mother and I brought this precious young lady into this world out of our love. We've given her all the love and care we possibly can give her to be who she's intended to be. And we expect you, young man, through your relationship to continue to give her that opportunity as she will with you. Do you understand that, young man? That is what every father wants to say as they give our precious daughters away in marriage. That led me to the next transformational thought, because prior to that moment, I looked at the 12,000 people in our company around the world as functions: engineers, accountants, hourly workers, salaried workers, salespeople, et cetera. And at that moment, I said, oh my God, all 12,000 people, they're not functions. They're somebody's precious child, just like that young man and that young lady who've been placed in our care. And the way I treat them will have a profound impact on their life together as individuals and as a couple. And the revelation just overwhelmed me. When you stop looking at the people in your organization as a function for your success, and you start looking at them as people whose lives are in your care, it changes everything. So those 3 transformations led me from what I call management, which means in my terms, the manipulation of others for your success, to leadership, which is the stewardship of the lives, the people entrusted to you, which is a profound difference. So that led us now to the next step. We said to ourselves, something's happening here bigger than we know. We gathered a group of 20 people together and we sat down and we said, what have we learned from this? What is foundational? And what we realized is we started writing things down on a board, and pretty soon we stood back and looked at the expressions that this 20 people gathered together, and we said, those are guiding principles of leadership. Those are principles that every leader needs to think about. So that foundational document was created almost by an accident, but it's like the Constitution of a country. It gave us the foundation upon which to build something. And so we decided that, we needed to do something with this document. And our chief people officer, Rhonda Spencer, said to me, well, Bob, there's a lot of companies that have good expressions on the wall. They just don't live those values. And I said, we're not going to put them on the wall. We're going to put them on people's heads and hearts. And I went out and I began evangelizing around the country and having what we call listening sessions, where I shared our guiding principle of leadership. And I asked people to challenge me. And we found incredible ideas to enhance our culture by just listening to our people react to our guiding principles. So I would say to you that foundational document laid the foundation for what we have now built in Truly Human Leadership. So within a couple of years of that, we experienced what you all experienced in about September of 2008, the most unique, sudden financial crisis I'd ever seen. And I remember late January, I was at a board meeting, and I walked in and my board said, Bob, aren't you going to have to lay off people? I said, I don't think so, because I checked, we got pretty good backlogs, and I think we're going to be okay for now. And they said, aren't you being optimistic? And I said, I don't think so, but so anyway, we got through the board meeting, and about a month later, I'm in Italy, and I get an email from my team. They say, Bob, our largest customer just placed a major order on hold. So incoming orders had dried up dramatically, but now our backlog started to disappear, which gave us the confidence that we had work. So prior to the journey I began in 1997, where I was transformed from management to leadership, I would have done what all of us would have done. Unfortunately, if we don't have the work, we need to address and right-size the business, downsize the business, restructure the business, so that economically we can deal with whatever the market that we have left to deal with. But when I got that email, I was sitting in my hotel room in Italy, and I said, oh my God, it's finally hit us. What are we going to do? And so I paused a second, and the overriding statement in our guiding principle leadership is, we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. And I've been prophesizing this so much that it was deeply in my heart. And I remember sitting in my room saying, oh my God, if we let people go, as I would have always done before this, because that's just what you do, we're going to hurt people. And we can't hurt people. So that stimulated another thought. And I said, what would a caring family do if the family experienced a crisis? A member of the family experienced a crisis. We'd all pitch in, and everybody would take a little pain, so nobody had to take a lot of pain. That led me to a thought which I never would have had without our guiding principle leadership. I never would have had without having prophesized those around the country and had them deeply in my heart. I said, what if we asked everybody to take a month off without pay so that we could get through this without letting anybody go? So I emailed back to the United States. I said, team, I'll land in a couple of days, brainstorm how to do this in a caring, thoughtful way. So by the time I landed in the United States, they had developed a way to invite everybody in the organization to take a month off without pay when they wanted, so they could enjoy their family or sports, and we could get through this without letting anybody go. I thought we would save $10 million by doing that. I think that was just a rough estimate. Well, guess what happened? By the time I landed, they had brilliantly put meat on the bones of that idea. We rolled it out immediately, and the reaction of our team members was extremely positive. Why? Because now they weren't living with this cloud over their head. Am I going to get laid off now? Am I going to get laid off later? Is the company stable? Because when we said that, people's reaction was a huge sense of relief, comfort, security. They knew they had their job, and they could plan for this if you will, 1/12 of their income being gone. But they didn't see it helping the company. They saw it helping their fellow team members because they knew that their taking a month off was an act of charity to help Bill and Mary, who sat next to him. So we implemented it. The reaction was exceptionally positive because people were willing to do that. A, stabilize the company. B, help their neighbor, keep their job, even though it meant them losing 1/12. And we actually had some people who had more financial security offer to people who had less, I'll take one of your weeks or 2 of your weeks, so because I know it's going to hurt you to do that. So we had acts of generosity, charity, by people kind of coming together as a team and saying, we'll get through this together and we'll all take a little sacrifice. And when the economy started to improve in late 2009 or something like that, guess what? Our company started going like this fast. Why? Well, because we had actually strengthened our company, had not lost our talent, and made a profound statement to them that we care about you and we are going to take that into consideration as we develop this company. So it was amazing, the reaction of our people, the acts of generosity, the pride. They would tell me how our actions compared to others and how much it meant to them. So I would say to you, in all honesty, it was amazing to me because I never would have come to that idea because I would have done what I was taught to do. If you got to adjust employment, you downsize, right size, whatever you got to do to make sure the company stays strong and you hit your earnings targets. This came from a totally different place. It came from our caring for the thousands of people around the world who depend upon us and trying to act in a way that shows we cared and to protect them as much as we could. So that's what we learned we totally changed the way we approach the economic challenge. So as a result of that and our journey, about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, Harvard wrote a case study on our culture. And I was asked to come up and teach. And I want to make this point. So there was it's like 160 global executives, 80% from outside the United States, average age 48, who were in this class. And the Barry-Wehmiller case was for the first time studied by this group of 160 executives. Now, they'd studied it the night before. They came in to class. Jan Rifkin, the chair of the MBA program, led them in a discussion. And finally, Jan, towards the end of the class, says, is Barry-Wehmiller successful because of its strategy or its culture? And for another probably 5 minutes, they debated that pretty heavily in the class among these students. And 75% of the people voted that we were successful because of our culture. So Jan said to me, Bob, would you like to come up and react to that? So here I am sitting, listening to people discuss our company. Jan invites me up to share my thoughts. I had never given this an ounce of thought, but in that moment of being invited up to speak to this group of 160 business executives, I had this thought and I said, well, first of all, I would say to you, I understand why you think it is our culture that makes us successful. But I would say to you that it's actually our strategy that makes it. Our strategy is so robust, in hindsight, so well designed that is what has created the greatest company. But our culture is the fuel. So if Ferrari designs the most perfect mechanical engine for their cars, high performance, brilliant design mechanical engine, that is the business model. But if you don't put premium fuel in that engine the Ferrari designed, it will never perform to its potential. So the business model is the Ferrari engine, and actualizing that engine is putting the right fuel in it together, which creates the power of the organization. So I would want to emphasize to all of you, it is not simply about being nice and caring. There's an old expression, you need to get the right people on the bus. I think you need to build a safe bus, which is your business model. And then you need drivers who know where they're going and how to get there. And then anybody that gets on the bus is going to be fine. So again, the importance to all of you is the foundation of caring is to make sure that the people are safe in your care, that you have designed a business model that will not end up being competitively destroyed, not performing, so you have to take it out on people. So anyway, I think I wanted to make that point. Our business model, designed in the early 90s from my challenges and experiences in the 80s, is the foundation of our culture. Now, I've also mentioned to you, Barry-Wehmiller is about a $3.5 billion company. We operate all over the world. We make big capital equipment, and our share price, we have a simulated public share price. I think we traded at 12 times EBITDA multiple right now, but our share price has gone up on this EVA, it's called Economic Value Added Model, which simulates public companies. 14% a year compounded for 25 years. Berkshire Hathaway in that same period of time is just under 10%. So we are not a nonprofit organization. We are a value creating organization, but important to us is human value creation and economic value creation. They are in harmony. So I wanted to make that point. So what have I learned from this journey that I just shared with you that I want you to walk away with? Never occurred to me in my education or my business experience that the way I would run the company would impact the way our team members would go home and treat their spouse, their children, and behave in our communities. But I've realized when in our university, in our internal university, when we teach leadership, how to move from management to leadership, 95% of the feedback is how it affects their marriage and their relationship with their kids. We learned from the CDC that in America that the person you report to at work is more important than your family doctor. Again, I was taught that the way I ran the business was a business issue. But what we find is the way we run the business profoundly impacts the people whose lives we engage in running our business. And so when we teach people to, if you will, care for those they lead, it profoundly impacts the people at home. So I would say to you, the way we lead has a profound impact on the way the people in our care go home and treat their spouse and kids and their health. But the key to leadership is empathetic listening. The three things we teach in our university that leads to this leadership is empathetic listening, not listening to judge or debate, but listening to understand. Recognition and celebration, which means how do you let people know they matter? And culture of service, serving the opportunity to serve others, moving from a me-centric, it's all about me and my success, to a we-centric, where people genuinely care for each other. I would say to you, this all evolved during a time that Cynthia and I were raising 6 kids. And I realized probably the most influential factor in shaping how we teach leadership was what I learned about trying to raise kids to live lives of meaning and purpose. For example, if you don't compliment your kids 5 times more than you maybe critique their behavior, it's going to be a difficult issue for them to deal with. There's no difference between the way we treat our kids and the way we treat our people in our care. So we have found that we spend more time recognizing the goodness in our people than talking about where we've fallen short. So again, parenting and leadership is identical. Parenting is the stewardship of those precious lives that walk in our building, in our lives through birth, adoption, and second marriage that we all take seriously. And leadership is the same thing. The people that walk in our buildings around the world are somebody's precious child, and they're just as, and dealing with them in a compassionate, caring way, making sure we have a vibrant business model so they're safe and they can go home each night knowing that who they are and what they do matters. And what we're really saying is, as a leader, simply the standard of care for the people in our organization is treat them no less than you would want to be treated yourself, or you would want your son or daughter treated if they worked in the company. So that is our standard of care. Simon Sinek has a brilliant observation because he studied Barry-Wehmiller and then he studied the Marines in terms of how he developed military leaders. He said in the military, they give medals to those willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. In contrast, in business, we give bonuses to those willing to sacrifice others so that we may gain. We lay off 500 people, costs go down, profits go up, share price goes up. Good job. What about the 500 people? Unfortunately, we had to do it. Market conditions, competitive. And so in business, Simon would make a statement, which is profound, which is what motivates us. If we can teach our military leaders that officers eat last, which is the expression in the Marines, which means they teach them the primary responsibilities of men and women in their care, why can't we teach in our universities business leaders that leaders eat last? Why can't we teach them that their primary responsibility is the men and women in their care? The answer is we can. And by doing so, we can address this poverty of dignity we have in the world, where we think if we give people a job and we pay them well, that we have done justice to the social system. But in America, right before the pandemic, when we had the lowest unemployment in 50 years, and we were not sending people to war, and we had a strong economy, we had the highest level of depression and anxiety we've ever had. Why? We had peace and prosperity. How can we have anxiety and depression? Because people do not feel valued. They feel used for somebody else's purpose. So I want to leave you with the kind of the manifesto of our book, Everybody Matters. And the reason we wrote the book, the reason I'm sharing this message with you, is that people from all over the world, McKinsey, Harvard, Simon Sinek, Raj Sisodia, amazing people came in because they heard of this culture that we had no idea what we had. And of course, Simon Sinek, who is an incredibly gifted speaker, he was the first one who came in because he basically said, I don't believe what I've heard. And we had no idea what he'd see or what he would say. He came in and spent 2 days talking to our people, and he said, I'm no longer a nutty idealist. I have just seen what I dream of. I dream of a world where you could tap anybody on the shoulder in any corner of the world and say, do you like their job? And they'd say, no, I don't like my job. I love my job. That's the world he dreams of. And he said, if it exists, it must be possible. He then brought in Bill Urey, a world peace negotiator from Harvard, spent 30 years negotiating world peace. Bill Urey said he saw the answer to world peace in his 2 days visiting with us because he saw a place where people genuinely care about each other. So Raj Sisodia, co-founder of Conscious Capitalism, he came in and said, this is a message that needs to be told, and I'm going to tell it. So some incredible people with incredible gifts and passion towards creating a more caring world have seen it through their lens and said, there's something special here, which I'm sharing with you. So we were compelled by these visitors. You've got to write a book, which we did, and we titled it Everybody Matters. The extraordinary power of caring for people like family. I was told the other day it sold 80,000 copies around the world. And my hope is that this blessing we've been given, which is a leadership vision of the way we are intended to live and work together, where people would feel valued, challenged, and respected, could heal the brokenness we're feeling in our families, in our communities, in the world. Because it's a model built on learning how to care about others. Okay. And Simon Sinek and I have an expression that we put on the wall of our building as you leave, and says, we imagine a society where people think of others first. So here's the manifesto from the book. You don't need to read the book or buy it if you just capture this manifesto. Everybody wants to do better. Trust them. Leaders are everywhere in your organization. Find them. People achieve good things, big and small, every day. Celebrate them. Some people wish things were different. Listen to them. Everybody matters. Show them. So I would say to you that as we try to share this message around the world to audiences like yours, who have people in your span of care, how can we together begin healing the brokenness we're feeling in this economic-driven world to have a more human balance with economic balance? I was interviewed by Washington University professors a few years ago. And after an hour and a half interview, they said to me, "You're the first CEO we have ever talked to that never talked about your product." I said, "That's interesting because I've been talking about our product for the last hour and a half." I said, "Our product is our people. I won't go to my grave proud of the big capital equipment we build for the various industries we serve. I will go to my grave proud of the people who built, designed, and cared for our organization. That is my passion, the people. The economic model is not my passion. My passion is the lives that we get a chance to touch, both through our internal cultural initiatives as well as our external, because our customers clearly value this." So I am profoundly privileged to share this with you all. I believe in every corner, I've given this address all over the world, and it's a universal truth that people simply want to know they matter. And the way we lead our businesses profoundly affects the health and the personal life of the people we invite to join us in this journey. Our focus has got to shift from the shareholders to all stakeholders, which is where we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. And there's a higher calling in business that we could begin a healing mission in this world if we sent people home feeling valued and they would treat their spouse, their kids, and behave in our communities as they have been treated. It is hard to care for others when you don't feel cared for yourself. So thank you for the opportunity to share this message. I hope I've touched your heart. I hope you will join me in this journey to create a more caring world through leadership, and that we abandon management as a broken practice, and we embrace leadership, which is the stewardship of the lives entrusted to you, and looking at those people in your span of care as somebody's precious child, knowing that the way you treat them will affect their health and their family life and the way they behave in our communities. And we can begin a global movement of healing, of individual sense of dignity, because when we do not treat people with respect, when we use them for our gains, it deprives them of the dignity they so desperately want. So thank you for this opportunity. I hope you will join us in this journey. I hope I've touched your heart in terms of a way in which we can all come together and begin healing the brokenness we're feeling in this world. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to find us and connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter at Barry-Wehmiller.com or trulyhumanleadership.com, where you can find more podcasts, articles, and videos. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening.